Hey there, breaking news out of the White House right now. President Trump has once again announced a travel ban. Now, apparently this is similar to the one he enacted during his first term in office. We are still combing through a lot of the details here, but it looks like he just signed an executive order either restricting or limiting nationals from 12 different countries. They are, and we're reading this as we speak here, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Congo, Equatorial New Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. And again, this is all just coming in from the White House right now. So we're combing through it. But apparently this looks like it may go into effect on Monday. We have also been told that the president has been considering this for some time, but has expedited this after the attacks that we saw, or the attack that we saw from a suspect in Boulder, Colorado. And so it does look like that timeline has been accelerated. Again, just looking through this pretty large release that just came from the White House. We're trying to gather a little bit more information, but he also appears to be restricting access from some other places, Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Those are restrictions that distinguish between but apply to both the entry of immigrants and non-immigrants. So quite the number of countries. 12 countries are on this ban, and then 7 other countries will see limited restrictions as well. And then sections 2 and 3 of this proclamation apparently has to do with identity management. And he is saying that there were some identity management issues that have come up during this administration that he has found to be inadequate. So he's using this as the president is using this to justify that unrestricted entry of nationals from the named countries would be detrimental to the interests of the United States. However, when it comes to the actual details on how he made these determinations, the White House is saying publicly disclosing additional details would cause serious damage to the national security of the United States. And a lot of those details are classified. So not a lot of questions in terms of the answers in terms of the particulars, but the questions are coming in fast and furious here. Joining us right now on the phone is Gabe Gutierrez, who I know has probably also got this on your laptop in front of you. Gabe, what do we know so far?
Hey there, Gotti. Well, as you were saying, this is breaking news, just happened in the last several minutes. It does come just a few days after the Boulder, Colorado attack. I think that's important context here, that the administration, also been working to take into custody family members of that suspect. Now, this is kind of a resurrecting of the travel ban policy from his first term, Gotti. And again, he just signed this proclamation tonight preventing people from a dozen countries from entering the U.S. Now, the countries include, and I know you probably listed them, but, it includes Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Haiti, Iran, Libya, and others. Now, in addition to the ban, by the way, it takes effect at 12:01 a.m. Monday. There will also be other restrictions on visitors from several other countries, including Cuba and Venezuela, for example. And the president, he says in the proclamation that he's acting to protect the national security and the national interest of the American people. And the list of the countries, Gotti, it comes from a January 20th executive order, basically, that the president issued this executive order requiring the Homeland Security Department, also the State Department, to compile this report on hostile attitudes towards the U.S. and whether entry from certain countries represent a national security risk. Now, you'll remember that during his first term, the president issued an executive order really early on, just within a couple of days of him taking office, banning travel to the U.S. by citizens of several predominantly Muslim countries. Now, that was, if you remember, it was very a chaotic time. There was a lot. It got held up in courts. But you'll notice that during this administration, the president and his aides have become increasingly emboldened with what they see as, they're pushing the limits of the court system. They have railed against some courts for disagreeing with them, but several of his aides feel, look, if they try this, they're almost daring the courts to go ahead and stop them. So, again, this is breaking news, this, new travel ban 2.0, you could call it, from this Trump administration. And, we'll have to see how it plays out in court. I tried texting with several civil rights attorneys that, will no doubt take issue with this. For example, the ACLU has been, front and center on the fight on some of the other proclamations that the president has signed. But look, this is something that the White House feels that it is entitled to do, that the American people, that President Trump's voters wanted from him when they put him into office. And they're certain to take a very defined tone here, God.
And Gabe, I'm just looking at this right now, and we had that list of the countries up there, starting with Afghanistan. One of the things that I don't remember seeing during the first travel ban, but I'm starting to see here is, a quick justification on the proclamation. So when it comes to Afghanistan, they are saying that this has been a hotbed of this specifically designated global terrorist group, the Taliban. But then they get very specific on overstay rates. So those with the B1, B2 visa, they're saying that Afghanistan has an overstay rate of 9%. Burma has an overstay rate on the B1, B2 visa of 27%. The J visa's overstay rate of 42%. And then Chad, overstay rate of 49%. So we're seeing some of the particulars in the form of overstay rates from visas. We're also hearing, again, this isn't contained so far that I've seen in this White House statement, but we're hearing that some of this may have been expedited because of what we saw happen in Boulder, Colorado. What is missing from this ban is that the Boulder, Colorado suspect was Egyptian, and he came through Kuwait, right, and he did overstay one of these visas. But it does seem like there are some countries that are not included on this list. What do you read into that?
Look, I think of this, perhaps it was moved up. I don't know that for sure, but it is possible, of course. But as I mentioned, this is something that dates back to the beginning hours of his administration during this term, where the president directed the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and the State Department to look into this. And you'll know that in the last several weeks there has been an increasing attempt by this administration to crack down on the immigrants overstaying their visas. So this is very on brand for the administration. This is something that they have signaled that they are doing this crackdown. But certainly this travel ban during the first administration, the White House officials, pushed back strongly on it being called a Muslim ban, even though it was predominantly Muslim countries. But they're no doubt going to argue that this is something that his voters voted for. This immigration crackdown, that being in this country is a privilege, not a right. And if you overstay your visa, the White House will argue that you need to go. And because of this, the overstay rates that you listed there in this proclamation that we're still going through, it's meant to send a message around the world. So, again, it'll no doubt face legal challenges, but here we are, another example of the Trump administration really pushing the limits as they see fit following what they consider to be a mandate.
Now, and I'm trying to brush up on my history here, but the first travel ban, his first administration, how did those end? Because I know ultimately the Biden administration kind of officially, do we remember what happened in the courts?
Well, it was retooled amid several legal challenges. It kind of went back and forth in the courts. And a version of it was upheld, actually, by the Supreme Court in 2018. And back then, that ban affected travelers from it was several countries. I believe it was included Iran, Syria, and several other countries. And back then the administration did defend this on national security grounds. They argued that that this was meant to protect the country. And the president, though, this dates back to really early on in his campaign. At points during his initial campaign, he did suggest that there should be some sort of ban on Muslims and Muslim extremists during his first campaign for the White House. So, again, this is something that really shouldn't come as much as a surprise to anybody that's been following the administration. Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, has been very blunt about the administration wanting to crack down on illegal immigration, but also just when it comes to legal immigration, just to vet people coming into this country. And this proclamation appears to be a reflection of that. By the way, it's something that he was not, we knew he was going to be signing a proclamation today, was not open to White House press. There was some, we were unclear exactly when it was going to happen. It appears to happen late today, and here we are, just after 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and we're learning of this now. By the way, Gotti, the president, although we did see him on camera just briefly a few moments ago at the White House during an event, he did not take questions from reporters. He hasn't for several days, actually since late Friday evening, which is unusual. And this all comes, in the broader context that he's facing that fight over his spending bill on Capitol Hill. But again, this is that breaking news that just in the last few moments we're learning of this new proclamation, this travel ban affecting a dozen countries that's now set to go into effect on Monday. Got it.
And Gabe, again, I really appreciate you kind of walking us through here. I'm still reading in on all of the different countries that are listed, and there's some interesting little nuggets here that may suggest where the State Department and where some of our foreign policy will be headed after this. So when you go through, you're looking. This is my cell phone. I'm videoing my camera here, but here's an example. Cuba, they're saying, is a state sponsor of terrorism. The government of Cuba does not cooperate or share sufficient law enforcement information with the United States. You see Laos, the overstay rate is cited. And then you've got, Yemen lacks a competent cooperative central authority for issuing passports or civil documents. It does look like this is the United States freezing out a lot of countries beyond terrorism that have just been difficult to work with in terms of sharing information on some of the foreign nationals that have come to the United States, and been difficult to return some of those foreign nationals, or uncooperative in returning those foreign nationals. So it does seem like this is a travel ban, but it also seems, as we see the tariffs in play, and as we see a lot of these restrictions now being spelled out here, that this plays into the new foreign policy of the United States.
Yes, and Gotti, again, this is a foreign policy that, the president did signal quite obviously during his campaign. This America First foreign policy, whether it comes to, economic foreign policy, or in the administration's view, national security foreign policy. And they view it as him fulfilling his promise to, in their view, protect Americans from what they see as, dangerous countries that, or dangerous actors, rather, that come from different countries. And, the administration is calling this, common sense restrictions. And we have heard repeatedly, especially over the last several months, that one of the big concerns is the vetting that happens when immigrants come to this country. Now, you just laid out some of the things that are listed in this proclamation. Yeah, it does read as a kind of a cheat sheet, if you will, of this foreign policy from the Trump administration. And I know its critics would refer to it as an isolationist foreign policy. But, his supporters would argue that, look, he's just doing what he said he would do and looking out for Americans who might be worried that, under the previous administration, the Biden administration, that there wasn't as much attention paid to cracking down on who came in to this country. And it's that you hear the president in virtually every single public appearance, every rally, and he will refer to that issue that is really central to his political identity, and that's immigration. It's something that, dating back to 2015 when he famously came down that golden escalator, and he has been hitting that issue very hard, and it does very well with his base. So we expect,
and Gabe, I hate to interrupt you.
More reaction from the White House.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Gabe, I hate to interrupt you, but again, I mean, you're seeing my computer screen here, but we're checking on X, and it looks like the White House has just posted this video. So if we have that stream open, if we can play that and just listen to it in its entirety here.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. In the 21st century, we've seen one terror attack after another carried out by foreign visa overstayers from dangerous places all over the world. And thanks to Biden's open door policies, today there are millions and millions of these illegals who should not be in our country. In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil. We will not let what happened in Europe happen to America. That's why on my first day back in office, I directed the Secretary of State to perform a security review of high-risk regions and make recommendations for where restrictions should be imposed. Among the national security threats their analysis considered are the large-scale presence of terrorists, failure to cooperate on visa security, inability to verify travelers' identities, inadequate record-keeping of criminal histories, and persistently high rates of illegal visa overstays, and other things. Very simply, we cannot have open migration from any country where we cannot safely and reliably vet and screen those who seek to enter the United States. That is why today I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others. The strength of the restrictions we're applying depends on the severity of the threat posed. The list is subject to revision based on whether material improvements are made, and likewise new countries can be added as threats emerge around the world. But we will not allow people to enter our country who wish to do us harm, and nothing will stop us from keeping America safe. Thank you very much.
Wow. Gabe Gutierrez is still with us on the phone. Gabe, I want to get your reaction, particularly the last part where he talks about how new countries can be added to the list here. What's your reaction?
Look, that video from the president, and sure, yeah, it was just published within the past few minutes. It tracks with, what I've been hearing, what my colleagues at the White House have been hearing, really since the start of this administration and over the last several weeks. So it is, tied, at least timing-wise, to Boulder, Colorado, and, the issue of overstaying visas, and the president clearly taking this opportunity to roll out something that his administration clearly had been working on. And then also, yeah, you mentioned the last thing he said, using this and viewing this as a potential threat to other countries or to anyone who, in his words, wants to come to the U.S. To do Americans harm. But it does signal this closing off of, immigration pathways, or at least making it more difficult for people from different countries to come to the United States. Critics of the administration have, will point to say that there was already a large amount of vetting that went on, especially for asylum seekers, some asylum seekers that came from foreign countries. But, the administration, the president has long argued that, no, it wasn't enough, and that there are too many undocumented immigrants in this country, whether it be people that came across the border illegally or that in this case, and this is what this proclamation is focusing on, people that overstayed their visas. But certainly we'll watch how this plays out in the coming days and weeks in the courts. Again, we certainly will face legal challenges, but it much like other proclamations, other executive actions that the president has taken since the start of his second term, the White House feels that it is ready for that, and it is making that argument and going once again back to his issue of immigration, something that he feels will not just do very well for his base, but something that the administration feels it has had quite a bit of success on since it took office back in January. Gotti.
And Gabe, I don't want to oversimplify things, but the gist of a lot of this, at least, as we see it coming in, again, this breaking news, and we're all trying to process it, we've been covering the tariffs and the restrictions of trade and trade out towards the rest of the world. Like, this kind of, does this feel like, we go from tariffs and the economy to the restrictions on people coming into the United States? Like, are those related? Because at the end of the day, this will create political, geopolitical leverage when it comes to negotiating with other countries, right?
Yes, and this all is interrelated on some level, but the administration has been very clear that it, wants other countries to come in and strike deals with the United States, whether it comes to tariffs or, whether it, when it comes to immigration as well, they want to see, other countries bend their knees in some ways to the United States if the administration feels that they are not properly on the same page as the president. Now, when it comes to these, and forgive me, Gotti, I'm trying to text with a source here that trying to get some reaction to this as well. But this is all happening in real time. But yes, this is something that the administration, I can't stress this enough, not a surprise, something that they had been working on clearly, and it appears that they really just took the opportunity here following this that awful attack in Boulder, Colorado, to make a point and to roll this out. And of course, this does come, as you mentioned, amid a wider, feud, if you call it, or the administration would call it trade negotiations and talks with countries really around the world. But clearly another example of an America First foreign policy, something that President Trump campaigned on, and his team feels they have no choice but to do, and will play very well with the American people. At least that's how they view it.
Gabe Gutierrez, I mean, look, we're always trying to get as big of a picture on all of this as possible. And when the news comes at you as fast as it does, it is so difficult. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here with us and giving us your analysis.